Hey, listener. This episode of RecLess is brought to you by our friends and social partners, Rec Technologies. If you plan to visit us in Philly this year, make sure you carve out some time to attend their session on Wednesday afternoon with Glenville Park District on OpenAI and ChatGPT. Learn more at recreation.ai. Rec Technology knows what it's like: clunky systems, endless workarounds, and software that fights you on every step. Parks and Rec is about serving your community, but somehow the tech you've been handed feels stuck in the past, making everything harder. Rec believes your recreation software shouldn't feel like a second job. Built by leaders from Uber and Google, Rec believes modern technology with powerful AI makes registration and discovery simpler for residents and the day-to-day tasks simpler for staff. That means fewer headaches on registration day, less time wrestling with spreadsheets, and more time for the work that matters. It's recreation management that makes your life more fun and powers play across your community. We are thankful for everything Rec Technology does for our podcast and for our industry. Now on with the show.
Hey guys, it's Hannah. Shortly after we released our first episode of Season 3, we had to pull it down. We are excited to be able to share this great interview with you now. Enjoy. Welcome to Season 3 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country who are joined by a surprise guest each episode. We're glad you're here. We hope you enjoy the ride. This is RecLess.
How y'all doing?
Good. Good, I guess.
Tom trying to fuck with me today.
Yeah, I guess the either the vacation or the recap episode where we gave each other you guys gave us some negative words. I was nothing but kind to both of you. I guess you can't joke with people anymore.
All right. Are y'all ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Shit, it's Season 3, isn't it? All right. Welcome to Season 3 of RecLess. Hope everyone's having a good day today. My name is Shane. I'm joined by my two buddies, Jay and Tom. Jay, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Tom?
I'm doing well. Try not to yell at the guests or the listeners, all right? When you opened today, it was pretty aggressive.
Is this too loud? I'm excited. Season
3.
I'm the worst of our three intros by far. I should farm out our intros to somebody.
Well, it's more guest. There's never a consistent.
No.
So I don't know what it's going to be. It's just whatever comes to your brain at that time.
Yeah, I think Jay is probably the best at it because you do the same thing every time.
I do. I had when we first started, I typed up a little script and I've kind of memorized it, and same thing every time.
No, I know this is a shock, but I wing it. Like that. Oh man. Okay. Well, I've got to guess I'm super excited about bringing on today. But speaking of winging it, we always have a little discussion before we bring them on. And today is one that we haven't covered, but something that we've talked about individually quite passionately about. When I was bringing our guest on, as I think y'all do too, I was asking for some background information, resume. The resume request popped up a question. I thought, we haven't talked about resumes much here, which is pretty shocking considering how hot sports opinion we are about our resumes. So the question for y'all today is, what is something y'all look for specifically on a resume, and what is something you hate to see on a resume?
I can go first. I think my biggest pet peeve or issue when I look at resumes, and I love looking at resumes. I know we've had
lots of discussions about resumes.
We have had a lot of resume conversations. I hate when they're 5, 6, even 4 pages long. I think regardless of how long you've been in the field, you should never have it more than 2 pages. Whether you've been in the field for 25 years or 2 years, you need to be able to fit everything on 2. And if you're, less than a couple years, 1 page is fine.
Yeah.
But people sometimes feel the need to add and put as much as they can. And I think it actually hurts you because, if you're, say, 5 years in, I don't necessarily care what you did in high school. So
right.
I want to know what you've done in college, after college, and since then. So I don't need your high school jobs. I think the one thing I look for, it's hard to say one, but because I'm going to stick to the rules today, I'm going to just say one, is
New season resolution.
Yes, some sort of involvement. So that can be in a variety of different forms, whether it's a membership to an NRPA or your state association, involvement with a local organization, involvement, whether it's like a extra collaborative project that, like, you may be an athletic coordinator, but if it says on your resume that you're on a committee for hiring or committee for special events or something in your neighborhood, or a local host committee, or you helped plan a conference, like just more involvement than just your 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, that's great. Tom?
Yeah, we've had these conversations quite often.
It's probably why we haven't brought it up on the pod, because we have talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I would say I'm not as much of a stickler on the resume restrictions as maybe the two of you are. I do know what I'm looking for. I wouldn't say there are a lot that I'm going to say, oh, you know what, this is nope, not going to bring this person in because they have a 5th page, right? So
I've done that.
That's I just want to preface, and we talked with Nate Jaramillo in an episode in season 2 about, first and foremost, we have to look outside of this profession, outside of this, the educational training that might be traditional Parks and Rec majors, right? Because I think it's going away. I don't believe in every circumstance you're going to find someone who's so I guess what I'm saying is personality is first, right? I want someone to walk in the door, and what does it take to get them in the door from the resume? Just for me, it's that relevant experience. You can have multiple resumes if you're going to be going out for multiple jobs, right? Who said earlier that the high school experience doesn't really matter, right? Yeah, that's probably true, right? So if you're going to be going out for a Parks and Rec job and you were doing work in high school as a pizza delivery person, I know that's a bad example, but I don't really care. That's irrelevant, right? So tailor your resume. I want your resume to be tailored for what we're advertising. Be smart about it. If you read a job advertisement, it gives you a list of 10 responsibilities. There should be something in your resume that, and that's not always the case. You might get someone really fresh, but at least try, right? Try to tailor your resume to a position that you're applying for. So I would say that's what I'm looking for, is relevant experience, in addition to, I think, Jay, what you said, some of that volunteerism. However, I could always, once I get them in the door and I feel that the personality is the right fit for the job, I always feel like I can train or push my agenda for someone to get involved at a volunteer level. It's not always something that an agency pushes. So I know that there's some that are right down the road, that they're not as heavily involved with associations and getting their people to volunteer. But when they come into our doors, they're going to conferences, they're volunteering, and then they become all of a sudden a president or a chair committee or something like that. So I believe the learning aspect and the volunteerism, those are pieces that I can teach or instill in a position, but the personality I cannot. So I really am looking for them to walk in the door and, kind of blow me away or wow me with the charisma that you just can't really read on paper.
But the resume is getting you into the door, right?
But you're not going to be able to tell that, because you're not going to get to that point if the resume is not solid.
Unless the resume has personality.
Yes.
Maybe he likes the formatting and the pizzazz.
Absolutely. Design, how you're formatting it. But to my point, what's getting you in the door for the actual interview is going to be some of that relevant experience, or trying to tell me, maybe it's a cover letter too, Jay. There are times where I look at a cover letter. I know we're going to talk about that. You're going to, Shane just gave us a thumbs down. I want to know why you want this position. Like, why do you even want to interview? Why did you apply for this position? Tell me before I actually have a chance to bring. I'm not going to, hypothetically, if we have 20 applicants, I'm not going to interview 20 people. There's got to be something in there that shows me why you want this job a little more than the other person. And I'll hit on one other point. Certifications and education. Again, in New York, I haven't been accustomed to being a CPRP. I have mine, but that's not really something up here that you see a lot next to people's names. In other states, it might be a huge deal. And that might be, you might set 2 applicants next to each other, same experience. One has those 4 letters and the other one doesn't. And that might set someone aside, set them apart to get them in the door for the interview. I don't know if I'm necessarily looking at that, at least in my neck of the woods.
I think it's interesting. It was 5 or 6 years ago. Tom had sent Jay and I a resume of his just to like give him some feedback. And Jay and I are sitting shoulder to shoulder next to each other at a program committee meeting. So it wasn't 5 years ago, but it was a while ago. And both of us sent feedback, and it couldn't have been more different. I think we gave Tom some seasickness or whiplash because our feedback was totally different, which is, I think, the real cool thing about a resume. It's what I love about resumes is that if there was one resume and you did this resume and you got the job every time, everyone would just do that resume. The resume is some ways an extension of your submission into that role, and you're hoping that you get it. And I like what both of y'all said in some ways. I do like, Jay and I had this conversation. I hate resumes that go over 2 pages. Like, if you can't tell me quickly why you deserve to do this job, I fear that I will be in a meeting with you a year from now, and you will be giving me an hour-long discussion on why the splash pad didn't open. When really, I just need you to tell me in 2 minutes why the splash pad didn't open. So succinctness for me matters. And I think
that's kind of ironic.
Yeah, right. It's unfair.
And we're starting off with something we agree on in a new season. It is a new life, man.
And I agree with Tom too. I think every resume that I create is totally tailored to that job. I'm always shocked with people that they'll just turn in a resume and then they look for a different job. They turn in that exact same resume. Maybe if they're 2 suburban towns of the same size, that makes some sense. But I'm looking at my resume and I'm comparing it to the job I'm looking at. And every single time I'm reevaluating, what am I saying? What am I leaving off? What's a bullet I add? What's a bullet I take off? Every single resume I submit, and I haven't done one in a while, fortunately. And I think all of us are fortunate that we're not always having to be in that submission mode. But when you're doing it, I think it matters to take another 15 minutes to 30 minutes every single time you submit a job, and just to make sure reading it through that makes a lot of sense. What were you going to say, Jeff?
I just want to say one more thing, because you just said that about like tailoring it to the position. I remember it wasn't that long. It was probably like 6-7 months ago. I was reading resumes, and there were a few that had objectives, and it was like one was to become a teacher at your school, or it was about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, you're just applying to every job possible. You're not spending any time. Like, that goes immediately in the trash. I don't care if they're the most qualified person.
Yep.
The fact that you're going to give me an objective for a park and recreation job that's about teaching, and it was clearly a teaching position, then you're not going to spend the time to actually like care about what you're applying for.
I've seen that.
Your rage applying. Yeah, it drives me insane.
Or, people they're either just, they don't care. They're telling you up front that, ultimately I want to be in teaching, or they're just not taking the time. One other piece on the personality part. So how do you show personality in a resume? And, Shane, you brought up a few ideas. Maybe it's design, maybe it's presentation. One individual who applied for the New York State Recreation and Park Society NRPA scholarship, they included media clips, which I thought was a link to a media clip. I've never seen that before on a resume. And if you want to show your personality and you have some kind of, I don't know, I've never really thought about this, but if I were applying, would I maybe send a link to this podcast? Would I maybe send a link to a webinar that I was on and talking about whatever it might have been that day? It's not a bad concept. I'd be interested to hear what you think about that, or, if you've seen that before.
Well, if you had a very social media minded city manager, it makes a lot of sense. If you have an old school city manager that thinks all that's nonsense, I wouldn't include it. And once again, you have to research the job. You have to know who you're applying for. And every time you make a resume, the one thing I did that I think I did it in front of Jay one time, and it floors him. But when I look at a resume, I fold it in half long ways. I rip it down the middle. And if you can't explain to me why, or I put a big line down the middle, but I divide the left side of the page to the right side. And if you can't, on the left side of the page, show me the things you've done. Budget, blank, blank, blank. I supervise, blank. It doesn't matter if you supervise 4 people or 40, that you budget, that you supervise, that you retain, that you evaluate. If you can explain on the left side of the page what you've done, I will barely read to the right. I'll say, okay, this person checks the boxes I'm looking for. They go in the yes pile, and then we move forward, right? And I do worry about some flashy resumes sometimes, because is it just flash? Are they showing their personality? Sometimes do they have their photo in a big font and it's in this crazy format because they can't fill up a page without it? But if you have substance behind it, I think the the design and font really highlights who you are. So that's cool.
That's a good question, and I'll leave with one note. Next time either of you are hiring, I wanna send you all a bogus resume from some made up name.
Done. But I'm always hiring. Always hiring.
I love this. This is a hot topic that I love talking about.
Yeah, we could do this for a while. Okay, so let's get to the guest. Who I'm super excited about. I absolutely have a huge affinity for this guest. Y'all have actually heard me talk about this guest and how much I like this guest. Y'all know this guest well. Y'all have interacted with this guest as well. They have just recently entered the 4 Baby Club, which is something that not everyone's aspiring to be at. Han and I have run the market on that for quite some
as
time.
of a week ago?
No, but
2 weeks?
I think fairly recently. In fact, and this is probably great advice for anyone that doesn't actually enjoy our podcast. When their little ones are needing to be soothed and go to bed, they actually put our podcast on.
No.
So our podcast puts their little ones to sleep. And so hey, it's not for everyone, right? I get it. So
Their little ones might be learning some foul language.
right, that's right. We're building up some new ones here. They were the rec professional of the year in their state. They
What
come from a state we haven't highlighted previously. Their guest name is Jackrabbits.
I see that. Yes.
Does that give off any hints?
I got nothing.
Some kind
Okay.
of mascot.
Yep. They are a CAPRA visitor, reviewer, and site lead. So right up Jay's alley. Director school in 2017. Still nothing. They got their undergrad in athletic training from South Dakota State and their master's in health, PE, and recreation from South Dakota State. They are currently the director of a department that means a great deal to me. And okay, still nothing. Maybe I would have mentioned something.
There only one department that means a great deal to you?
Only one. And in my phone, their name is not the name that you'll see when I introduce you. Their name is Prototype. I have always told them that if they built Parks and Rec directors in a lab, they would be the person that popped out.
I've actually heard you say that before.
Yep.
I think I know who it is, but
Okay. You got any guesses, Tom?
I had one, but I don't believe I'm on the right track.
Okay. Yeah. One of the reasons I think they're Prototype because they've worked in large cities, suburban cities, rural cities. They've been the director of parks, rec, cemeteries, libraries, seniors, and airport.
they in Texas?
They are in Texas.
Female?
They are a female.
I got it.
One of the people they remind me of actually has a podcast. They're a speaker named Mel Robbins. And anytime I see Mel Robbins, it reminds me of our guest, the great Jen Basham, director of Parks and Rec for the city of Burleson, my hometown.
What's
What's up?
Hey, Jen.
Hey. How is everyone?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm really surprised you guys didn't get that.
I gave him
Well,
11
it's
hits.
so funny because
I know.
the hint with the 2 extra children coming into play recently.
I threw the
that-
state thing too, because then they're thinking not Texas, which I did on purpose because
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas would have helped. He didn't say 2 extra children. He said
Nope.
4 children
just said
club.
4.
So if
I know, but
Yeah,
now,
okay.
But now when I got it, I was like,
Yeah,
2
yeah, yeah.
more.
And if
Yeah,
I said
yeah,
they were in
yeah.
our YP, I say we chat, but if
Yeah,
I
you
said they
can't.
were in the YPN chat, they would have figured it out pretty quick. So
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
legit have you heard. I've heard you say the prototype phrase before, which is kind of funny.
she doesn't like it when I say it, but she's the prototype.
I don't know
If
how
I
I feel
showed
about
it to you on the phone, it would say prototype.
Yeah.
It's not Jim Basham anymore, right?
Well, legally, we had babies in life, and so I have not changed it. It's Jen Ulrich.
That's right.
At some
That's what
point.
pops up on my. It keeps trying to use your contact card. And I'm like, nope, no,
No.
prototype.
No.
She's the prototype. Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to chat a little. We were chatting before we had the guys coming on. You've just done some promotions in house.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's an exciting time, but you also did that coming out of maternity, which is not something we've discussed previously. As we were just talking a minute ago, you've had 2 beautiful boys. You named neither of them Shane. I thought it was my best chance to get a kid named Shane out of someone in this industry, but
You had four
maybe.
chances.
I know. I did. I could have done it myself. You're right. So how does that transition go where you've got an assistant director who leaves, you've got to interim someone, you leave on maternity, and that's something that males in this industry are starting to maybe figure out when we're starting to get maternity leave, but it's not something we've had to deal with for long periods of time. But me and you talked, and it was a little nerve-wracking. You'd worked really hard to get the department exactly where it was, and then you have no assistant director anymore, and you have to go on maternity leave and take care of these kiddos, and it's all got to run without you. What was that like?
It was a lot of preparation. And, my grandpa used to say, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And he was right. And I always ignored that advice my entire life.
You never want to hear it when you haven't prepared for something. You're like,
no, I am a chronic procrastinator. I am queen of the deadline drives me type of person. And so mentally preparing to be gone for 8 weeks. And then I did a month work from home, which meant most of the time I was still in the office. But our former deputy director over our parks department gave his notice in December. He was given an opportunity to promote and kind of some succession in a different organization. So we loved that for him, but it was right when I was about 7 months pregnant. And so we said, all right, perfect. Let's do this. And so he left in January. And we had 2 internal candidates who were like, hey, I want a shot. And I was like, okay, well, I also don't want to fill the role while I'm about to step out, because that's the worst, is to be like, hey, I'm not going to guide you or lead you or do anything because I'm going to go leave for a couple months and then, good luck. So we had that opportunity in house. And then I also needed to prepare someone to be me while I was out. And so we did both of them at the same time. One of the internals was actually about to go out on paternity leave. So he was having a little girl. And so
something in the water out there in Burleson.
No, don't come to Burleson because it is contagious. We've had 6 in our leadership team in the last year and a half have babies. And so it's wild over here. But so he took the first, seat. And then when he went out on leave, we had one of our recreation managers step into the role as interim. At the same time, our other recreation manager started shadowing me at every single meeting. And so it was really exciting, because I think a lot of times when you sit in the director seat, people only know you as how you served them. And so they're like, hey, I need Jen to sign this contract or do this PO or give some guidance on this HR, whatever. And so when they get to take that next step and sit in your seat and get to see the whole umbrella, they're like, oh, there's so much more. So it was really exciting to get them all to that seat. I think the biggest win was when I stepped back, everyone just like all of our fellow directors and our city management were like, they killed it. They absolutely killed it. They're like, we don't need you anymore. Go home.
That's got to be a great feeling.
It's a great and slightly terrifying. But no, they did. They did a wonderful job. I opened the deputy director posting while I was out. So it went live about a week before I went out. So I was reviewing candidates the whole time. And even before I came back, we had done some of those initial interview processes, which if you've ever been through that process with me, it's a nightmare. And I apologize in advance. Just because kind of to your point, Tom, earlier, is I need to know who you are as a human. Like if you make it to the interview process with me, I know you can do the job. That's not the point. I need to know that you're going to fit with our organization. And the culture to me is so vital that I would turn down someone who has a greater skill set over someone that fits with my team. And so that's kind of how it played out. Our recreation manager is now in that deputy director role, and it afforded me the opportunity to restructure on the rec side as well. And so we are I think on week 3 of this new structure. And so we're still kind of winging it, as you would say, Shay.
Yeah, honeymoon mode a little bit. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Probably more of the I expect you to know exactly what my standards are right now. So they're used to that.
Yeah, that's good.
So you said you're 3 weeks removed from this now, or back into the fold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's it like for someone? What do you think, I guess, or how do you feel it's like for someone to now have to come back down to? I feel like that would be a challenge for someone who had stepped up and had to take on all these extra responsibilities. And maybe another question there is, did those individuals get compensated differently during that time?
Yes. Oh, yes. So we, we used to do, and this has been market for every organization I've worked for, just like a 5% across the board. But our organization is actually way better than that. I got to give touts to HR on how they manage it. We give you midpoint of the position. So if you make 80, say now, and the director is making 160, 170, whatever we're making, then you come up to midpoint of whatever that pay grade is. So
That's cool.
they were compensated during all that, which was also just a blessing to be able to give everybody that opportunity and say, like, we know you're going to hustle because you're going to be doing 2 roles.
Yeah.
So we're going to compensate you appropriately. But the second part of that, Tom, we actually had a really candid conversation because I was like, is this going to be awkward for you?
Yeah.
Because I have had people that have been my direct reports before, and I've gone on vacation or whatever. And even that like 1 week time frame, I come back and I'm like, nope, I'm back. We're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I think it's a personality thing. Allison, who filled in for me, is probably one of the most humble human beings you'll ever meet in your life. She's just a quality human. And so we talked about it. And I was like, if there's stuff that you really loved that you still want to be part of, just from like a learning perspective, like you get to keep doing that. So we have a couple of big master plans going on right now. She's still going to sit in that seat. And then when I'm out, they'll go back and forth. Now that we have 2 deputy director roles, they'll both get to still sit in that seat. And then just gave her an opportunity to learn more about the park side. So that's something she's interested in learning, like the capital planning and stuff. So we just kind of, how can we continue that momentum, even though you're not going to get to sit in the seat right now?
That's a great strategy too, just to allow them to keep a little bit of what they just bit off and got an opportunity to taste.
Jen, when you were talking about the importance of culture, I'm curious, is there an interview question or a task that you've given people to help you identify that and like making sure you get the right person based off of culture and not just the most well-rounded, talented person?
That's if they're a podcast listener, right? RecLess podcast listener.
Yeah, that's why Jessica got it. No, just kidding.
That's right.
She was like on episode 29. No,
that's right. She's a super fan. She is.
Yeah, she is. She's got the badge. No, we do a crazy process here. And like I said, I think it's a little bit of a logistical nightmare if you're on the receiving end of it, but we're aware of it. And I went through it when I got it and I actually really loved it. So you do like the leadership version of it where you stand at a podium and everyone's at the dais and you present, because I need to know that you can present in front of a council or a board. And then we do your laterals in a panel. So other deputy directors and people of that from other departments, basically the people that you're going to be having touch points with all the time. And so they get to do you. But then we do a tour of our city and our system. And that is a frontline employee. That is always someone that's going to work underneath you. And almost always their opinion is more important. But this time for this specific job, we did speed dating. So our entire parks crew speed dated every one of our final candidates, and they were all in the same room. And so I sat down with them after the interviews and just said, okay, who'd you love? Who did you not love? Why do you love them? And it was really hard for them because they're not that vulnerable with each other most of the time. They keep their opinions close to the vest. And so I was like, I cannot give you the leader that you want unless you can sit in this room and tell me why you want this person. And so they did. And I think it created some after meeting conversation for them.
Sure.
Intrigued, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really healthy. And so for me, it was good to know, because we had 2 internal candidates, what are your fears? What are your concerns? And so I needed to know that to be able to select their leader. And then of course they needed to know where I was at with what I need from an executive administrator standpoint. And so they understood that. I think in our current process, it was different with 2 internals, but if it had been all externals, I think even the feedback they were allowed to give with that, just being able to say, like, they saw everybody that was given the opportunity. And so they kind of knew where it was going to lay at the end of the day.
Did they have predetermined questions to ask, or were they able to go off the cuff?
Nope. They created their own questions. So I reviewed them. They weren't that rogue, that we didn't let them go that feral, but no, we reviewed a set of questions, and then they were empowered to say, like, all right, if this question sparks another one, like, ask the follow-up.
That's really cool.
How many people would you say they ran through?
Well, we only did 4 finalists. We had 5 and we had 1 step out due to some family stuff. So they had 4 finalists. Our crew, I think we had 10 guys still out in the field. So we had 23 guys in the speed dating.
Really? 23. So there's a chance, or probably more than likely, that at least 1 or 2 of them may not have had a really great impression from someone.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a great point, Tom. Someone might be disappointed with whatever the selection is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it was a mixed bag. I think that was the most interesting thing for them to gather each other's viewpoints is they recognized the difficulty in selecting their successor. Like they understood that not everybody in the room thought the way they did and thought it should be the same person. And they had to respect that, like, honestly, coming out of that room, there was no consensus. There was no, and that's what you wanted, right? You wanted everyone to be like, man, this is the person. And there wasn't. There was, I like this person for this reason and this person for this reason. And this person could really help us with X. And so they really had to wrap their mind around, okay, if I take away my own opinion, what I want, I see that person's point and I see that person's point. Now, did they kill that? Probably not. There was definitely some frustration from the people who didn't get the candidate that they wanted, but they understood.
Yeah, I think we're in a political season right now. There's going to be votes, national votes, and voting's awesome until your candidate doesn't win, right? And then you're frustrated with it. And so when you ask 23 park ops guys who they want, unless it's unanimous, someone walks away saying that wasn't the one I selected. And I guess if you have a good culture, it sounds like you do, you just embrace the hard conversations and say, this is why I made the selections we did. And we're going to support them and see where they grow from here. But I think some departments would say, oh, I'm scared of 23 people not liking the head decision. And then they go the different direction. So that's really cool.
You know, in full disclosure and transparency, I would say that there's definitely some of that. And like you said, we have a lot of the hard conversations. The Monday after I rolled out the restructure, I sat with all of the people that would be directly reporting to the new deputy directors. And the whole point of the meeting was to do a visioning process and to say, like, all right, this is where we're at. This is where we want to be a year from now. And it went off the rails. I mean, people had feelings. And so what's healthy about that is that they felt comfortable and vulnerable enough to feel like they could say the things that they wanted to say and to feel the way that they felt and to understand that, like, I respect where you're at and your feelings are valid. This is where we're at as an organization. Now that you've said that, this is where we're trying to go. How do we get there?
Well, and I'll say, I don't know all of your employees, but I know a couple of them from my time living in Burleson, and they wouldn't stay in a toxic environment. So you've got a group of people that you're having hard conversations and you're having discussions with, because there's some really special people that work for you that I know of. Yeah. And I'm quite jealous of some of those folks that you get to work with, for sure.
Either way, with that process, it's so interesting. It's such an interesting concept. You know, we've done a lot of different ways, right? Maybe we have some commissioners on the committee and have them go through the screening process, or a handful of staff, and whatever it may be. That method that you just explained, though, is a very democratic method, right? And at the very least, every one of those individuals feels included, right? Feels
heard.
Like they were feel heard. Well, included, maybe not heard, right? Because if
they were heard but not received, maybe.
Right, yes. But either way, just to finish that thought, I think either way you do it, you go in that process and you say, I don't have the time and resources, or I'm going to do this from start to finish. You hire someone that doesn't work out, you're going to get some of the individuals in the team or the leadership team who are going to kind of question that. Same situation here. You know what I mean? It's the same concept. It's just more people were involved. If it doesn't work out, there's going to be always someone who probably is, oh, I told you so.
Well, I think one thing too that is really unique about what you did is, yes, you're giving people a chance to be heard, and you're going to probably learn things that you wouldn't have learned through a traditional model. And regardless of what the choice is for the final candidate, if you get honest feedback from your staff that was throughout that process involved with it, then you could probably implement some changes just based on whoever it is, but not based on specifically, I wanted this person or that person. But if you have a group conversation about what they're hearing and what they want, that's the goal. I mean, you mentioned culture before, and it's something that we don't probably talk about directly as much on here as I thought maybe we would in some cases. but like, that's the culture you want in every agency. You want people that can speak up. You want people to feel comfortable to have those vulnerable conversations, all with the intent of implementing progress and change and growth for the team and for the community.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, you open yourself up to a little bit of shots fired, right?
Yeah.
Because they all get to directly say, I don't like the decision that you made, and here's why. And I saw the applicants, but the opposite is, you just put this new leader in place. I don't know anything about him. I don't support him. I don't respect it. And so you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, a little bit. And for me, I'd rather be on the receiving end of, I don't like the reason that you chose this person. However, I understand why you didn't. Let's move forward.
That's a great point too, because when I got hired, as I've said, I was the second candidate. So they told the department the first candidate didn't take it, and then that they were going with the second candidate. And I in my interview process, it was a bit of a car wash like yours. I got a lunch with the staff, but they didn't ask staff which candidate they wanted afterwards. And one of the internal staff at the time asked an ACM who's no longer with the city, would they get some feedback on the process? And they said direct reports don't get says over their supervisors. And that was off-putting, right? So I'm coming into something where people are like, I didn't get to choose you, and we didn't even get the person that the first city manager wanted. And so, it's one of those things. It's like, it's a tough, you're having to win everyone over. But I think if you can impact changes on the culture, it obviously steps in the right direction. Let me take it a different direction here. Speaking of culture and assessing departments, you do a lot with CAPRA, and that's something else we haven't really hit on in our 2 seasons so far. So someone who's a site lead, someone who's been a visitor, someone who's been a reviewer, why do you do CAPRA? What do you get out of it from your side? I know that you do it because you give back to the thing, but what's the selfish thing? Why do you participate?
Yeah, it's totally selfish. It started very selfishly. When I worked for the city of Keller, they were like, hey, we should do CAPRA. And I was a young buck who knew nothing, quite possibly still the second part. But they wanted us to do CAPRA. And so I thought, well, what better way to learn how to become accredited than to become somebody who goes through the accreditation process from the other end. And so I did. And let me
stop you real quick. For Becca and Esther, what is CAPRA?
A Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies.
There we go. We're always talking about lingo, and we do have some people that don't actually know what we're talking about. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so I did my first visit, and I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and I probably still butchered that. And I had the epitome of CAPRA site leads at the time. I think we've changed the terminology, but it was a site lead, Bill Folsch, and he ran me through the ringer, and we went through like a 4-day, it's so crazy how quickly this evolved because of COVID. But, they had all the Rolodexes full of files and documentation, and I mean, just stacks by the end of the week. It was wild. And now you see everything before, and by the time you get there, it's really just an opportunity just to see how the system works. But I thought, man, what better way to learn than to immerse yourself in this process? Like, there's really no other way of saying like, oh, I learned something about, even if it's risk management or accounting or marketing or ADA accessibility, like whatever it is, like I can read a policy all day long, but when you see how people are implementing it, it was like, okay, I mean, that was the selfish thing for me. And now I do it. It wasn't as fun through COVID. I'll be honest. I don't know how, Jay, you felt about that. It's just a lot of work, and you don't get that second part, the part that I'm selfish. I want to see the agency. I want to see how they're implementing it. I want to see their team. I want to see their culture, because I want to see how I can bring that back to my organization. And you don't see that reading through a list of evidence of compliance. You just don't see it. And so, they're kind of transitioning still. The accreditation process is evolving, and we've got new standards rolling out in 2025. And so I think as it moves forward, I think they've received that feedback. I hope we get to do more in-person stuff.
And just so people know, you don't have to be in it. You don't have to be in a
Right.
CAPRA accredited.
No, I'm not. I never have worked.
Right, yeah.
I've never worked in a CAPRA accredited agency.
And that was
I think
going to be
the majority of the visitors are not working for one. They may have a goal to work for one. But as someone that's been on the commission, there's always a need for more visitors, and you can't just rely on people that are from an agency, because there's not enough of those people that are interested in wanting to do this, because it does take time.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question is what is the sell for agencies out there, Jen? And I'm not in a credit agency. However, I came from one that dropped it. Another agency locally dropped it. And I'm sure that happens here or there. But what if you're as a reviewer, as someone as part of that process, what's your sell to an agent to say, yes, this would be, this is something you should try to attain?
So we're actually going through that process right now. We've submitted our application, but we're working towards the new set of standards. So we're not ready for a visit or even completing our self-assessment at this point. But for us, it was lending credit to our agency to say that we are holding ourselves to the standard that's above and beyond what we're required to. And so not just to say like, oh, we've invented all these policies that used to be best practices so that when someone complains about X or someone wants to know why we do things this way, we can lend them to a policy. We want to be able to say like, we hold ourselves to the highest standard possible. And that's really what accreditation means. We're actually presenting to our board and one of our committees next month on where we're at in the process and why we're doing it, because they knew it was like this peripheral thing, but now they know like, where are we at on that? It sparked their interest enough to be like, hey, are you guys actually going to do that? When are you going to become accredited? And so giving them a timeline and kind of a reasons why.
And for educational piece, how much, like, can we go on a time and finance commitment for that process? How much time are we looking at as an agency? And I'm sure the larger the agency, obviously that's going to impact versus the smaller agency, maybe not. And then cost.
Yeah. So the initial application is based off your population size. It's not that magnanimous, not very big. And then you have 2 years from the time you apply to do your visit. And in that time, you're doing your self-assessment. So you're trying to make sure that you have all the evidence to show that you're compliant with your standards. And so for us, it's $135 or something to submit the application. And then once we get there, since it's an initial accreditation, we'll pay all the money for the visitors to come into town. And then you pay an annual maintenance fee to actually keep your accreditation. And then every 5 years you have a reaccreditation. And some of those, I think, and Jay, you can speak to this way better as a commissioner, some of those are cherry picked to become in-person reaccreditation visits. And then some of those are still just virtual. So they're not nearly as expensive. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. I mean, people used to budget $10,000 to $15,000 on an accreditation year, because when those visitors come, you want to show off your agency. You're paying for their lodging and their food and their travel and everything. But you're also planning a dinner with your boards and stakeholders, and you're showing off different things and probably repainting all of your bollards and things to that effect to make sure that everything looks pretty. And so there's definitely that internal cost, but the maintenance and that initial application, that's not much.
Jay, I'd like to hear you speak to this, but the change was not everyone gets that a visit, just the initial folks now get the visit. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes that have taken place or are in the works of taking place. But yes, the in-person visits are very different than the way it used to be pre-COVID. And a lot of that changed because of COVID, to be honest with you. I mean, similar to Jen, I went on my first visit in, I think, 2014 or 2013 to Wichita, Kansas. Never would have been to Kansas probably anywhere in my life, but got to go visit Wichita, tour their centers. And, it was still, like Jen said, it was all done by paper. So I'm reading through binders, and very different than what it is now. Fast forward to COVID, and, all the visits took place virtually.
Was CAPRA there
from a visitor
in Wichita?
What's that?
Was CAPRA the director then?
Nah, Troy Houtman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Troy's great.
CAPRA had gone to Oklahoma City.
Yep, Troy's on the commission. He's been there for many years now, but it changed to being virtual with COVID. And then, after COVID, we got through that. There was still a conversation on, going back to in person. There were still some departments that were hesitant to have visitors. And there were some agencies that actually weren't allowing visitors still close to COVID, even after COVID. So some of that kind of sparked this conversation. But yeah, looking back to what it is now, there is a shift to only new agencies unless you're so many years removed from your first visit, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be hopefully getting back to where there are more visits, because that's what the visitors really want, is to be able to put their hands on it, see the people, meet the staff. It's not the same doing it virtually. I've been on virtual ones, and obviously, like you can still do some of it, but you can't get the full understanding of how an agency works virtually, and you don't get to meet the same people. You're not really, meeting elected officials as much as you would in person. You're not meeting all the staff, touring facilities. And that was a lot of times the draw for a visitor, is to go visit facilities and meet more staff.
Well, and even from the virtual standpoint, I think some of the visits that I did, that I've done over the last few years, the accrediting agency, they're like, man, this is really anticlimactic to do this virtually.
Yeah.
Like, we have put in all this work to meet all these standards, and then we do a Teams meeting on Monday morning and show you a PowerPoint, and then we do like a few check-ins, and then at the end of the week you come on and tell our mayor how great we did, and it just is not as impactful to them, and it's probably hard to justify doing the process when it's that virtual interaction.
And I'm
So,
sure
Shane.
logistically, the tours, when you brought people on site, were a heavy lift, but there's a little pomp and circumstance to it where the mayor's probably there to speak on behalf of the agency and the city manager. And people are excited that people are coming in to assess this department. And I guess you lose all that if you don't have a site visit.
Yeah. So Shane, you've talked a couple of times on you're building a rec center, and it's going to take several years. You put a lot of sweat, blood, and tears into it. Can you imagine it's finally open and you guys don't do any sort of ceremony, any ribbon cutting, any announcement? It just opens up tomorrow and like nobody cares.
Actually,
There's
I
a
could,
PowerPoint
but
on
most
your
people would
Facebook
not
page.
like. I could do it just fine, but most people would hate that. Yeah.
But like that's the comparison, is like you want to show it off. You want people to come get a tour. You want people to show, and like all that time and energy that you spent on CAPRA, and you want people to come and actually like learn, man, this is what we do. This is why we're the best of the best. And we did this for the last 2 years. Because this is, CAPRA is not something you just sign up for tomorrow and be like,
No,
oh,
it's
I'm
not
gonna
easy.
do this next
It's
year.
not an easy thing.
It is a multi-year, sometimes 3, 4, 5 years in the works. There's a lot of agencies that they sign up for it. They think they're going to do it in 2, but they ask for extension because it takes a long time to get to that level of where they want to be and where you need to be in order to pass.
When you're required to work with so many departments outside of yourself so many times, like our big holdup is we need an ADA transition plan, and we have an ADA board, and that reports to legal, and I'm just kind of hands tied until that progresses forward. So you're kind of like, hey, whenever you get that done,
Right.
I can get accredited type of thing.
We talked about ribbon cutting. Chris Noons recently, I can't remember if it was on, were we all together? Or was it it was the, I think it was a series that Tom and Chris had RecLess on. But he highlighted Jen's creativity with some of her ribbon cutting. Y'all had done a park, and y'all had some welcome signage. I had the chance to get to know Jessica, your now deputy, really well. And she said y'all do like 50 to 60 events a year. Y'all are always ribbon cutting. Y'all are always doing things. I hate all of that. So how do you have the drive and the desire? I like what Jay explained in some ways. Like, I would love it. We're opening a playground of distinction, one of 6 in the country. And I literally scheduled the ribbon cutting for my vacation, which I'm out again this week. So Jeff's doing it. Jeff's going to be the one introducing the mayor. They're going to ribbon cut, and it'll be great. I'm glad I'm avoiding it. But how do you create the culture? Because I think your downtown and the renovation of that saw the increase of a lot of events. And so how do you get your team up to doing so many things? Like, it's almost like Dan Mason, Tom, in season 1 or season 2, where he talked about Jen, he was a minor league baseball guy. And so they're always doing events all the time, and 60 something events a year, small or big, plus a bunch of ribbon cuttings. That's a lot for a department to undertake. You're doing something every weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, sometimes it's multiple times a week, right? Like it's insane. And we have one special event supervisor. So Elizabeth, our special event supervisor, she's crushing it. But if you ask her, she's going to say, I need 1 million more people.
Sure.
And I think the balance for that is we allow 1,000,000% flexibility. So, if she works a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I don't expect to see her till Thursday the next week. That being said, sometimes I still see her Monday and Tuesday because she's breaking something down or doing whatever. But It's the person in the seat, she's really passionate about it. She aligns very much with it. I think if I had someone else in that seat, it wouldn't be as successful. I think something we all do is we get really complacent in our special events and festivals. We're like, man, we know we're going to do a summer concert series, and we're going to do movies in the park, and we're going to do July 4th and Christmas. And that stuff gets so stale. It's so boring. I'm sorry if you've been to one July 4th, you've been to 100. And so that's always the challenge when they sit down and they do their strategic planning every year. We say, who are we not serving? Why are we not serving them? And how can we serve them? And so they've started every year that growth that you say 50, 60 events. Some of them are very small. It's Hispanic Heritage, it's Juneteenth, but they're growing legs as they go. And the team loves doing them because they know they're serving a new portion of our community. Now with the ribbon cuttings, that's political. It's something that's exciting for them. But the way that it's exciting for our staff is they project manage all of our capital projects. So I get in there and I design it and make sure all the public engagement goes right. And then I hand it off to someone to be the project manager of it. And it's their baby through the ribbon cutting. So they get excited about it. They get to say like, man, I got to see where this went from public engagement survey round 2 to ribbon cutting. And this is the part that I made sure was constructed. And they get to go through the audit with me where we do the final walkthrough and the punch list and say, well, this is really cool, but all your trees are dead. So what are you going to do? You can't do a ribbon cutting with dead trees or the fence that backs up to this. Like we did that last year. We had a playground that we reopened that is all the neighbors that back up to all their fences were falling apart. I mean, falling apart. And it's a pocket park, so it's not a big park. We literally paid and replaced all of their fences, but giving them the opportunity to be creative and to say that excites staff, which excites me. It's not about like me acting like I'm super stoked to open every single playground. It's watching them get excited to do it that keeps that passion.
And you mentioned the guys might have a question about the events, but you also mentioned public engagement. Talking to Jessica, y'all do a lot of public engagement. Every park design, I feel like y'all are asking the public what they think about that park design. Pflugerville does not get that. We do some of the main parks, but I'm designing the park replacement or whatever. Y'all do a lot of public engagement. How do you balance that?
It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. And so when I started here, I started in 2020. I started in August of 2020, and we had 2 playgrounds that were up for replacement that year. And the first one had no public engagement process. They'd hired a consultant. We farmed it out. It was good to go. The second one, we did the exact same process, but we did a design that was a little uncomfortable. And our council chewed us up and said, did you ask the community what they wanted? And we were like, well, no. We're replacing a playground. And so we actually have a city ordinance that outlines our public engagement process. And it's twofold. So we start by saying, all right, this is what's here today. What would you want to see? Do you want to see something for families? Do you want to see something for littles? Whatever. We take all of that. And for a playground specifically, we reach out to 9 different manufacturers. We ask them all to submit concepts. We pick the top concepts. We send it back out to the community. They pick it, and that's the design that we take forward to our board and to our council. And so it's an extensive process just to do a playground. Even for we lined some tennis courts with pickleball lines. We reached out to every pickleballer in town. We reached out to tennis. We did a public survey, said, hey, if we add pickleball, is it going to be okay? I mean, we literally say it doesn't matter as a practitioner what I think belongs in that park if the community doesn't support it. And so we said, we're here to serve. What do you want to do? And that's what we do. We put parameters on it with budget, and we obviously try to guide that. But yeah, everything that we do is what the community wants.
Well, I think there's 2 sides to that. I think on one side, that's amazing because obviously you're serving at the best possible level. But on the flip side of that, that's going to slow down your process. And it's always going to take way longer than it would have if you didn't go that route. But you may not have gotten it right, according to the community directly, if you don't do that.
So that's a great example. So we took a playground in February to Park Board before I went out. And we have a big push in our community for inclusivity, and we've always included that as part of our design, is to say we've transitioned from 5R and stuff like that to a hybrid 5R pour in place, and now we've rebudgeted any future replacement. It's either completely pour in place surfacing or it's artificial turf, depending on the playground.
That's not cheap. That's
not cheap. It's slowed down. You know, we were trying to keep everybody on a 10-year replacement schedule. We can't do it anymore. You can't afford to. But that and shade were the number one things that people asked us for. I mean, we're in Texas. It's hot. And so we were like, all right, super cool. We're going to go from 3 to 4 a year to 1 or 2, depending on what we can afford. Because that's not the only thing we do a year with capital. We took this playground in February and our park board hated it. They said, there's not enough play value here. We don't love it. So we had to go back to the drawing board with the manufacturer and say, all right, this is the concept that the community loved. If I redistribute some of this money from sports courts to play, what can I get? And we took it back when I came back in June, and we're just now getting that. It was awarded 2 weeks ago at council. And so it won't be built till Christmas, where the other playground that went in February, the ribbon cutting is next week.
I just wanted to ask a question or a follow-up question about culture that I believe, culture is very important to a lot of our listeners. I'm sure it drives me to try to really create and be the best that we can for the team that we have. In my experience, when you're up at the top, you typically hear the best and the worst. So the best of every compliment of all you're doing that comes to you, maybe not the ones in between here and there. You don't necessarily see everything that's going on, and you hope your team will report and share that. And then same thing when the worst of comments and engagement is happening, it will come to you, right? Ultimately, from a culture level, I would assume that we've all experienced this before, but I would think it's something our listeners would want to talk about when you're trying so hard to push a culture and get buy-in and have this atmosphere where everybody is cohesive and on the same team. Every once in a while, someone's not on board. They may have a real reason to not be that way, but handling it is tough. And you know what else is really tough about it is how that hits me anyway, right? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking we have the best culture ever. And then just one person, one of our own team members comes up, or maybe I hear it from the public about a team member, and I find that maybe wasn't the case. Can you give our listeners any tips on how to handle that reality that maybe as much as we try, maybe, yeah.
It's so I think for all of us, we hire the youngest crew in an organization, right? We have lifeguards, we've got camp counselors, we've got kiddos that aren't bought in, right? This is their first job. And so we're honest with ourselves about that. And we have that conversation a lot internally because we're not nailing it. While culture is important, I can assure you, if you went to one of our 240 team members that we have right now, someone's not going to love what we're doing, or they don't even know what we're doing. And so we understand that, but our goal every single day is we've tried to shift that, and it's shifting. It's not there yet. We want people to understand that you're part of something bigger, but we want to understand why you're here. And so what's your motivation? And we take that individualized approach where, again, we're shifting. We're not there yet, but that was part of our visioning process we just had. I said, man, we have all these 16-year-olds and everyone's like, they don't care. They're not here. They're not this generational, yada, yada, yada. I don't care, honestly. It just means we're not doing something right. And the big thing that we took away was like, well, why are they here? Why did we care? Why did they care? They showed up today, and whether they showed up with their mind somewhere else or because they needed a paycheck, why are they here? And what can we do to grow them while we have them? We may have them for 3 months as a lifeguard. We may have them for 3 weeks. I don't know. But if I take my culture seriously, I need to know that every single person that's here is here for a reason. And what is that reason?
I think that's a great point. This industry has a lot of former counselors that become Parks and Rec directors.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is if you take your culture seriously, those temp positions may not turn into temp positions. They're going to turn into full-time, and they're going to return, whether they're full-time or not. Eventually, they're probably going to come back again because they had a good experience. They were treated well. They were treated fairly. And who knows, they may turn into full-time. I know a handful of people that worked with me in Mecklenburg County that started part-time or started as a summer camp counselor or a lifeguard. And for multiple different reasons, they wanted to pursue that. And it could be because of culture.
Very working genius too. Try to understand people before getting them to understand you.
Sure.
Well, we just think like, man, if we only have you for a snapshot in time, if I'm your first boss, right?
And we are. we're a lot of their first bosses.
Yeah, I want to set the bar for what you should expect from leadership and what you should say, like, man, I really loved our camp director this summer, and here's why. And I really loved the aquatics coordinator, or I loved, the front lead at the desk, whatever your reason is. Like, I want them to really understand a standard for what their leadership should look like, and then how they should be treated and how they should behave. Those are all things that we try to achieve. Again, we're not perfect. We don't get it right. I can assure you, if you walked in right now, you'd be like, what about that? But we're really serious about it. And, we've swung the pendulum too hard, where we're like, man, they're messing it up. They need to be written up. They need to be accountable. They need to, and then we realize, like, man, we're not providing them with the experience that we thought we were, because we want these people to really love to be here, or to just take the love that they receive while they're here and apply that for future roles, whether that's Parks and Recreation or finance or whatever it is. That's what we want from them.
I've made a presentation to council recently where I told them we hire a lot of we're a lot of people's first time jobs. And I love how you said it, probably better, that we hire a very young workforce. We have a younger workforce than cops do, than public works does, than finance does, for sure. I think it also, to our benefit, ultimately puts us well seasoned, is that the right word, in knowing what this next generation is going to be like. Like, we get more experience with this younger generation than, like, the headaches that police will deal with. The same 16-year-old, they'll deal with their growing pains at 22, 23, 24, when they finally come onto the force. We have been working with them when they're 16, 17, 18, 19. We bring them on part-time through their college years, in their 20s. They may come back and work for us 21, 22 full-time. We've been dealing with their whatever emotions they're not regulating, whatever, alternative motive they have for work or play. We've been dealing with that for years before any other department does. That, I think that's to our benefit in some ways.
Absolutely.
Well, one thing before we get to our round robin, you talked about how much you engage the public. In fact, you're proud of how transparent you are with the public. And I think I don't follow Facebook much. I'm not very good at it, but I do follow Burleson's Parks and Rec page, and have for years. And Burleson's a real special place, obviously, to me. But you're very transparent. You're very honest on there when a splash pad goes down, or when something happens that we had a splash pad go down recently, and I sent y'all's communications to our comms team and said, hey, not saying this is the best or the worst way to do it. I'm just saying this is how another department I have a lot of respect for is managing the splash pad issue. And how do you get that comfortable in being that transparent?
I think you look at it so I always say, and this is an Ann Beck quote, this is not mine, I'm sure she said it when she was on here, is like, your social media is not a flyer board. Stop it. And it infuriates me. And I talk to our marketing team all the time. I'm like, stop posting flyers. I'm so sick of them. But the biggest thing is, like, it's supposed to be engaging. And if we can't be honest, why would we ever expect someone to be honest with us? Sure. And so while we frame it so that we're not putting ourselves in a PR nightmare, we're always transparent. And sometimes we end up in the PR nightmare anyways. Right. But since we can't manage the message once it leaves us, it's so, so, so important to us to try to at least get the facts out there. Because I know you all have the residents talking, or the rant and rave, or the moms of, or whatever you may have. Once it leaves, once the cat's out of the bag and someone's said their own message, you're screwed. And so we're like, no, we're going to be honest. And if we don't tell people what's really going on, then they're going to create their own narrative. I would rather them know the facts, even if they're not pretty.
And that has served you well. For the most part, the comments seem to be, okay, thanks for being honest with us. Even when the splash pad's open and it's closed again, it's open, it's closed, they're like, we get it. These guys are trying their best. I think it's a great experience for other professionals to see how you handled some of those things, because I would just post stuff and kill all the comments. That's how I would do social media.
And a former
splash
agency,
pad's closed. Shut up. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Well, you can't do that. First Amendment.
That's why they won't let me run our Facebook page.
But I follow another social media page, and I won't blast them, but they've done that this summer a lot. They turn off all their comments. They post this clearly negative thing, and then they're like, but we don't want to hear how you feel about it. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, you got to know.
No, I think that you're probably doing it the better way, even though I don't want to do it that way. So this is now our round robin.
All
Once
right.
we get to know a little bit more about you, how did you get from San Diego State to Fort Worth,
South Dakota.
South Dakota? Did I say San Diego?
You did.
Yeah.
Hannah will edit
You
that
did.
out.
They're
Hannah will edit
definitely-
that
No,
out.
no,
No,
that has
she'll
to
keep
stay
it.
because
She loves to
that's
keep it.
pretty
I
bad.
mean, they're not. I think they're basically the same.
SD State.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the same climate for
Same-
sure.
yeah, same place.
Well, I grew up, born in Oklahoma, raised in Texas. I guess you'll have to learn this about me. I was formerly married to an athlete who played for South Dakota State. So we graduated high school. He got a scholarship up there, and I'm the girl that followed the boy. But God works in mysterious ways. It's exactly where I should have been. I absolutely loved it up there. My best friend is still there. And so that's how I ended up there. And then we moved home after. So,
And you were doing athletic training.
Mhm.
So is that what you wanted to do at one time?
oh yeah, I really wanted to be a athletic trainer in the NFL. That was like the goal. That was, and then I realized like I'm gonna wear khakis and a fanny pack and carry a 6-pack water bottle for my entire life, and I'm gonna not make any money. So I switched gears.
There you go.
You mentioned the leave you had for having your recent babies. What was the one thing that you missed about work that you didn't think you would miss?
Well, I knew I would miss it because I have 2 olders, but I love what we do. And so getting to just talk shop and talk about, I left during budget season, which was absolutely mortifying to me, but they killed it and I should have not been nervous at all. But being able to kind of be a voice in the room, like you lose that when you're on leave, and the voice in the room to 2 newborns, they don't really care what I have to say.
They care what
so
we have to
that's
say.
probably the
They're
best.
listening to our podcast, guys.
They did. I sent Shane a picture of Gray, one of my babies. I was listening to it while I was just hanging out with him, and he was like, okay.
That's awesome.
My brother is a parent of twins, and so is my best friend. It's
I don't
really
have twins.
eye-opening.
I was going to say the same thing. I don't have twins either.
Well, no comment. And so, as we move on, what has been the biggest challenge of, you've got 2 olders. And so I think all of us out there, you run, I hate to say this, run the risk,
gambit.
run the risk of having twins, right? And
The older you get, the older you get, the higher
So-
the risk.
what are the challenges presented so far, and what are maybe some of the joys? I mean, double the kisses, double the hugs, obviously.
That's exactly it, actually. So having my olders, they're 10 and 11, and they're at that age where they're into their own lives. Like they have their own little lives, and that doesn't stop because you just doubled the herd. And so, we had 2-week-olds out at baseball tournaments and at award ceremonies and field days, and that was exhausting. Like, I don't think I had a brain cell left. And then the other thing with twins is that you never get a day off. Like you never, there's always a baby for you. Like you can't just hand it off and be like, all right, I'm going to go take a nap because there's another one.
It's like whack-a-mole. They just keep on coming.
Exactly, they do. And we have assigned babies. They assigned themselves to us. And so my baby loves me and has an affinity for me, and the other baby has an affinity for my husband. But when we switch, they're like, and so that's been interesting. Or like when you get a break, like I'll go to the grocery store, I'll only take 1 baby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's different, but it's really full of joy. We've established kind of a closer nucleus a little bit. We do the nightly walks, and my older son got a electric scooter for his birthday. So he just zooms by us and cuts us off all the time. And my daughter is in track, so she goes for a run, and we have these big family moments that we weren't really having before, because everyone's just divide and conquer and run kids and chauffeur kids everywhere all the time. And so it's been really beautiful.
That's wonderful. That's really great to hear. And I will comment pro parent right there. If you have 2 children, they don't have to be twins, but mine are 2 and 4. The leave one, take one method it's key.
Oh yeah.
I never got to leave one take. We had 4 really close. Like Jay has a little separation between his kiddos too. So, but we were 28. We had 4 degrees between us and 4 kids as well. Like we were quick. You probably may vacation differently moving forward, but what's a vacation look like for you? What's a getaway look like for you from our industry?
Oh man, that's so tough. So, we were fortunate to make these babies on our honeymoon to Europe last year.
Nice.
We went to Scotland and Ireland and Paris and London, and just like it was kind of felt probably more like a career-ending travel because now we're with babies.
Yeah.
And so this year, our one vacation that we have planned is we're going to Port Aransas in a few weeks, and we're taking the grandparents and the aunts and everybody, and hoping that it's just going to be moving our house to a new location. We're aware of that, but yeah, it looks a little different. I think in a year from now, we've always really kind of prized ourselves on have kids will travel. And so I think next year we'll probably maybe do somewhere in Europe with them once they're a little more mobile. But right now, one of our babies has really, really bad reflux. And so he pukes up like 2/3 of every meal. And so we're a little hesitant to put him on a plane or do anything like that because we don't do that, but he should grow out of it. And so once that happens, we'll be more on the road.
Is that yours or his?
That's his.
So you could just leave him, go to Europe without him. Okay.
Yeah, we're fine. No, I'd like to take my husband. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I got one more, and maybe Jay has one. This is a silly question. Full disclosure. Shane says Burleson is a special place to him. What does Shane Mize mean to Burleson? Is it like, does he come into town? Is he a celebrity, or is it,
he's like
they
right
carry
there
me
with
on
Kelly
the
Clarkson.
shoulders.
We're glad he's out.
Clarkson, Shane Mize.
I have heard has the Kelly Clarkson story come up in our
I don't
pod?
think it has. Yeah, I went to school with Kelly Clarkson, for those that are listening.
I actually was going to rephrase that question and say, who is the most famous person from Burleson, forgetting completely about Kelly Clarkson.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's Kelly. And then we have a girl right now who's at the Olympics. So I mean, Shane's right there with him.
Yeah, I went to school with Kelly Clarkson. I went to school with the 3-time Olympian on the volleyball team. Casey Donahue, for those that love
country music,
was one of my classmates. So Burleson does not list me as their top alumni.
I don't know that we have time for the Kelly Clarkson story that I heard anyway, but I will tell our listeners that if you know this song, Since You've Been Gone, it's actually about Shane Mize.
We'll keep it at that. What do you got, Jay?
We're going to keep it into the Burleson topic, and I'm going to hopefully spark some controversy here. We talk a lot on here about food as well. If I'm coming to Burleson, what is the one place I need to go eat at, Jen? And then I want to hear what Shane's recommendation would be and see how they differ.
Well, Shane doesn't live here anymore. We've had a ton of new restaurants.
Grown, yeah. I mean, when I was there was a Waffle House and a Denny's. It was
don't eat at that Waffle House or that Denny's, but as much love as you can give to them, they are great for entertainment value.
I'll go first.
You go first, because okay, go ahead.
Southern Made Donuts. They still have that in town?
We do still have that.
Right up
used to have great kolaches.
I would like that.
Used to have really good kolaches back in or Busy Bees.
Busy Bees.
Kelly Clarkson loved Busy Bees. That
Busy Bees is cash only, so you better bring
still. Yeah.
Still. So I have actually never had Busy Bees because I never have cash. So every time we pull up, I'm like, oh, every time. For a local place, Fresco's. Mexican. Fresco's is really good.
What about Babes?
Babes, yeah, but Babes is a chain now. But our Babes is a good Babes because they have the full menu.
Yeah.
And then Old Texas Brewing. And we just got a new restaurant that just opened called Station 330 that is really, really good.
Now, a high school classmate of mine and a guy that was in my wedding, Boomer, has a cigar shop, a cigar lounge. And I have frequented that a lot since I've been back. And Jen came out to the grand opening and inhaled a lot more smoke than I think she was used to.
Yeah, I'm not really more of the smoky atmosphere kind of gal, but it's beautiful. And
she was there for a little bit. She was like, I gotta go. I was like,
yeah.
I'm gonna make it a goal of mine to get a high school classmate as a guest on a future episode from Shane Mize.
That would be interesting.
Maybe the one for the the one in elementary school who didn't invite him to the birthday party.
That's
or
right. That's
yeah, it's
right.
a good story.
Burleson Parks. Maybe I shouldn't have such a great affinity for Burleson Parks. That's where a lot of my mental issues have all started.
Oh,
That's funny. Okay, well, Jen, thanks for coming on. This has been great.
absolutely. Thank you all.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Jen.
so much.
All right, see ya.
Bye, Jen.
Bye.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was good. Jen is good. I have a huge affinity for Jen and what she does. I love that she manages my hometown. I don't know if y'all have one of those. Do y'all know
Yeah, I got it.
person that manages your hometown park system? Like the one Jay that you grew up in or one Tom that you grew up in? Y'all know that director?
Yeah, I got him the job.
Oh, really?
It was the
How
first.
close?
Well, he's like one of you guys are all my best. I have a lot of best friends.
Be
So
careful.
you guys are best friends too. And it was one of my closer friends. Now I wouldn't say, but now we've become a lot closer. And he was a year older than me. I was asked to come back and I said, I need time to think about it. I called him back. I go, I'm just going to be really honest with you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I said, but I got someone that I think you should look at. He lives there, he grew up there, moved back there with his family. And so, yeah, it's actually really cool to have someone there that I know really well.
She reached out to me when she was applying for it and we talked and, you couldn't pick a better person to run a department that you care about. And I know I'm really close with a couple people that I went to school with, their church with as growing up that actually work under her and they love her. They absolutely.
She's great.
Yeah. They absolutely love the culture and what she does there. So she's doing a good job there. Is that the same thing for you, Jay? Do you have a hometown? Do you know the person that runs your old department?
There isn't a department. That's like kind of the running conversation that I've had with Tom is like where I grew up, they don't have individual park and rec departments per each like town or city.
Yeah.
They have a park like supervisor, but they don't have rec centers and they don't do summer camp. They don't do sports leagues. Like it's totally different.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's a little different.
And I've said this to Tom and it's like, that will always be why I'll never move back home because I could not get a job in a municipality that would be equal to what I do here. Now, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's none because there are some, but they're very few and far between and they're not as large as I would want to be.
What's interesting too, because I also would have never taken the Burleson job. Like Burleson's a special place for me, but it's better for me that I'm away from it. It. And I don't know if y'all felt the same way about y'all's hometowns, but I like looking at Burleson from afar and seeing it doing well. I don't know if it would be great for me, if I was in it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, all right, boys.
Same. All right, guys. Pleasure. Good
See ya.
time. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Here at RecLess, we love to give back to the community that we're so passionate about. We do that by providing scholarships to professionals to attend conferences they may not otherwise be able to attend. That's where you come in, sponsorships. If you are interested in a sponsorship, we'd love to connect with you. So this spot could be yours. Contact us today at recklesspod@gmail.com or check us out at recklesspod.com for more details.
This episode of RecLess wouldn't have been possible without the support of our agencies and our better halves, Melissa Salatino, Lindsay Tryon, and our executive producer, Hannah Mize. We also want to thank our director of hashtags and swag, Rooney Taylor, and our team of junior producers, Luke, James, Elizabeth, Grant, and Harper. Stay up to date on all things RecLess by following all of our social media and like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to ensure you don't miss an episode. See you next time on RecLess.